All right. This morning we have the good. The good is one of the followers that are here, or not followers. I don't know. One of the chat folks here at in our Telegram channel. If you guys go to t.me/ScottStream, you can join my chat, and then you'll see the chat channel that we all have. You can join that thing. And he messaged me. Oh gosh, he says, I'm a senior with a high GPA for mechanical engineering with 2 full semesters to go, and I've been considering dropping out. A part of me says stay, et cetera, et cetera. What's going on, man? You're gonna have to quit You're gonna have to quit beating on that microphone or that desk. I don't know.
Is it this? Is that the noise?
Yeah.
Man, this mic is so sensitive. It's one of those Yeti Blues.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I call my penis.
Yeti Blue.
so sensitive.
Yeah, that's true. Especially, well, never mind. But yeah, so college sucks. I have a mechanical engineering degree. I graduate in August of 22. It's a program that does 4 years plus a semester because they make you do these paid internships. And I think in the past year, my ex's father, recent ex's father, had introduced me to the online great books, and I had never read any of the content before, not even read the Bible. I was not raised Christian, and I think my values started to really change over the past year, and I'm beginning to not see the value in that degree as much as I used to. It seems more like a receipt than anything of actual important matter, especially considering the last year of classes are mostly filler. It's not the core classes of engineering. So, I was thinking about the numbers. It'll cost me about 20 grand outright for the next 2 semesters, plus interest of however long it takes me to pay it. And then also, I guess you could say the opportunity cost of not working, which would be after tax about 25 grand at my current wages. So yeah, I don't know. But the other part of me, I'm so close. 9 months, and I've already gone this far, so maybe it'd be a big waste.
Yeah, and you're studying mechanical engineering, right? So it's not. I mean, you're not in some crazy social science or some non-objective, lunacy. I'm sure that the school is crazy. That's probably what you're reacting to there. Right. It's not the content of mechanical engineering, right? I mean, you don't have any like philosophical problem with like calculus or statics or anything like that, right?
No, I particularly enjoy it. But part of the problem is in the state of Pennsylvania, which is where I live, you have to take, it might be 35 or 38, some high number of credits. Each class is 3 credits for typical general education. And you have to take a lot of them. And I have to take 4 in the next 2 semesters. I thought I was done, but it turns out they have constellation courses, which is just a bullshit program for more gen eds. And yeah, well, I have to take them. I mean, they're not difficult, but they're pretty pointless, and they only had so many options. So I had to take like North American, like environmental studies, and I wanted to do first world history because I think that would have been fun to learn about, but I couldn't do it, and so I took like technology,
they call it first world history.
First World War. First World War.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
Yeah, no, they definitely wouldn't call it that. First World.
Wow.
Well, they'd probably be hating on it the whole time, but yeah, and then with the engineering degree, the quality of these classes, it's just not what it used to be, I think. So I was talking to my supervisor at my corporation, He's actually a nice guy. He's from Austria. He's an old fella, and he went to, I think, the university. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but Graz or Graz,
Hmm.
Graz, and he actually went to what they call over there an engineering high school, where he was already in high school, pretty much doing like almost like a trade school, where he's learning manufacturing and having like actual machining classes in high school. And then he went to college, and they took no gen eds, and their
Right.
classes were very, I wouldn't, maybe they weren't like super professional, but they were very high standard, very rigorous. And over here, kids sitting next to me are wearing PJs.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
um, there's a bunch of women in the class, which there's like, a few of them are all right, but um, most of them are very, well, they're women. And yeah, it is, if all of them are going to pass, because now I'm in my senior year and they're all still hanging around. If all of them are going to pass, it makes me wonder that this is probably happening everywhere else with this low quality of student. And well, if everybody has a bachelor in mechanical engineering, what does it matter?
Right. Well, a few things. Well, I talked to a couple of friends of mine who are practicing engineers, and one of them's a PE, a practical engineer. Can put his stamp on people's work,
Correct.
and told them a little bit about your situation. And of course, they all know, everybody that listens to this knows that I just dislike college very, very much. And some of these men that I've talked to dislike it very much as well. But everybody said, um, this guy needs to finish. You've got 9 months. I can sit on a tack for 9 months. You've got 9 months, and you need to find a way to get across the finish line. And I know you don't want to hear that, and I know it's another 20 grand, but that's really, nowadays that's not that's a moderate price for school. They're going to inflate your debt away, so don't worry about that. And then you will be out in the world of engineering, and you'll be free of college. And I'm sure there's some real dumb dumbs and people that shouldn't be in engineering that are in that program, and they're gonna graduate, and then they'll be out in the job market. But the thing about engineering, unlike almost everything else, is it's just so objective. It's harder for those people to excel. If they're no good, they're not going to go that far. And there are always going to be some mediocrities that are going to be promoted into management and all that. But you're in one of the best fields, and you're really close. And I know you don't want to hear that, but I
Nope,
think
the
you need to
truth.
just sit down and just take this next 9 months like your chemotherapy or something, that nobody enjoys but decides it's good for them. And then you can go out into the world and find another way. Once you get this degree and you can start getting out into the job world, uh, you will find another way. There will be other opportunities. There will be other avenues that are maybe not engineering, but that this will help reveal to you.
Right. And
You know,
and yeah,
you know, you go ahead, sir.
well, I was just gonna say, I think I agree. I was talking to my supervisor. He's head of engineering for a big hydroelectric company. Um, I was talking to him about it to get his advice, and also I wanted to ask him, like, hey, if I did drop tomorrow, would you hire me in the same position? And honestly, because they're so bureaucratic, it's a big
Yep.
corporation. He's like, well, I really don't even have the choice. It's like, even though you're an intern now, you'd still have to redo the hiring process through HR. And then not only that, but you'd instantly go from a starting salary of 62 down to somewhere in the high 40s.
Right.
Even
Right.
though I have the same knowledge, I'm, you know, just as capable. Um, so I mean, yeah, when he said that, I'm kind of like, okay, well, I guess guess I'm stuck. Like,
Yep. Yeah. And, in 62 versus 40, pays for that first year almost. I mean, you got
right,
taxes. Um, and and that's just how dumb everything is. But I think you need to grind it out, do it, and then just save every single penny you've got,
Yeah.
um, and pay this thing off, and then keep your eyes peeled. You're going to have in this business that you're going to be working for, you're going to have vendors, suppliers, customers, and just be watching and figure out which one of those is any good. I mean, or which ones are terrible. You're going to see some bad ones, and if you see a terrible supplier, a terrible vendor, that's an opportunity for you. That's an
Right.
opportunity for you. Go take that spot. Go fill that role that they're not filling well. Keep your eyes peeled, because you'll see those opportunities that you wouldn't see if you didn't have the job.
Correct. Yeah, it's building. Well, they call it
Yeah.
networking in the college world. They call it networking.
Yeah, it's not networking, it's
But
espionage. You're going to be paying
yeah.
attention to what all these people are doing, taking all their best ideas, seeing what they suck at, and then
Mhm.
using all that information to ultimately compete against them and destroy them.
Right. And I think the other thing about that company, so they build turbines and generators for the hydroelectric dams all over the world, um, which is all funded by government. So
Right.
let's say like the market, I don't want to work this job the rest of my life, but as a stepping stone, it's pretty safe and it's also kind of lucrative. And um, even if there's a huge crash, as long as it's not like complete anarchy, but if it's like an '08 crash, but worse, they're still going to need to pay for the dams. And even if they don't need to, they probably still will anyway, because it's green energy, according to them. And it's a little safer than some other potential job opportunities as well for the short term.
Yeah, it'll work until it doesn't.
Yep.
And when it doesn't, it's really not going to work. I would I'd be try. You're right. I mean, for now, it's going to be really stable, but I'm not interested in that government largesse, and you're going to end up with all kinds of stupid mandates in that
Hmm.
in a business like that you're going to, if you don't like college, you're not going to like that either. So
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
already don't. They make me do online training for fucking everything. It's
oh
like
yeah, yeah,
for
oh
making
yeah,
sure I'm not racist, for making sure they did one where it was like, what if a shooter walks in the building? And of
right, right,
course, they have like a example scenario where they play a video, and it's your typical white guy dressed in all black with a 12 gauge, and he just walks in,
hmm
he's just blasting all these minorities away in this office.
yeah.
Um,
You're going to be subjected to more and more of that kind of baloney, and so get your degree, go take those people's money, um, keep your mouth shut, keep your eyes peeled, and find the exit.
yeah,
Um,
I think
and
so.
it'll take you 5 years, and hopefully everything hangs together long enough for you to get out and get plenty of traction and uh, and go be an adult. You know,
Hmm.
but uh, you're actually. I have no doubt that school is nuts and that you hate it, and you're right to hate it. But you're actually in a much better position than most people that are in college.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate the guidance. I think your guidance is correct. I think maybe if I was starting sophomore year or freshman, I think then maybe it'd be justifiable to say, eh, you know, I'm 20 grand in, I need 60 more grand to go, and all that time. Maybe I'd
Yeah,
get out of there. Um, but
yeah,
yeah, definitely the corporate world's not for me.
but I also haven't heard
Enjoying
you
it though.
say I don't like engineering. I haven't heard you
Uh,
say that.
yeah.
So it's important to understand that if you go to college for X, doing X is nothing like the college experience of that.
Hmm. That's
But
true.
you haven't said you haven't said you don't like engineering. You just said that you've not enjoyed the college stuff, and so I think you're going to be fine. I think you're going to be fine. It's just the next the next 9 months are not going to be any fun.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, no, I do like engineering. Part of the problem is the degree just was very unimpressive. We had a big meeting with my intern advisor at the college and my advisor at work, and then another buddy of mine. And she was asking for advice on how to change the program. And I said, we don't take a single class on manufacturing. How can you be an engineer and not know anything about manufacturing?
Right.
But we take classes on FEA, which is like finite element analysis, and that's mandatory, and all this other kind of bullshit. But we don't take any classes on manufacturing. How can I design something if I don't know how it's going to get built? It's just stuff like that. I found the degree very unimpressive. I think 30, 40 years ago it was probably very rigorous and very specialized.
Yeah.
But
yeah, they might be doing you a solid there. Like the chances of you getting a manufacturing job in the United States today are almost none. Nobody builds anything. Like, what would that be?
Right.
So maybe they did you right. Maybe they did you right. I mean, I think they should. I mean, it makes sense that they would. I mean, I get it, but I'm sure that's what they're thinking. Is like, well, it's a service-based economy, blah blah blah. So, we're going to train these people up to be consulting engineers, and off you go.
Right, but it's all for bug world, which I'm trying to leave.
Right.
But what are you gonna do? Except for take care of your own. So.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Just work my ass off till I have kids, so I can get that debt out of the way.
And when you graduate, you don't have to work for this company that you're interning for either, right? You don't have any contract with those people.
No, I don't. No, and part of me considered not doing it just because I live in a area. Well, a few of the Pennsylvanians in this chat would know some of the areas that are going up in price, and I live in one of them. But I go an hour and a half northwest, and you can get a few acres in a nice house in a nice hilly area for 120, 130. Around here, you'd be paying about triple.
Yeah.
But also the benefit of working from home is I could still live up there and do my work in quotations and make good money until I build enough capital and I build enough relationships to get the side hustle going, whatever it is, and turn it into a full-time. But
yeah, Sand Crab just said here in the chat, he's a machinist. He says there aren't engineers that know how to design for manufacturing. There's your niche. That is a common complaint among those guys, and he's always asking for help with design and setup and all kinds of stuff. So there are opportunities out there, and then you can always put your head down and get the job and try to get the promotion and and play that game. Hell, it might work. It might work for a little while.
Yeah, just you got to go in with the understanding that you're doing it to get out. I don't know why it was surprising to me how bureaucratic it was in the engineering position, but it's all bracket based and there's no negotiation, and it's all with HR, moms.
Right.
And yeah, it's just like I don't know how these old heads do it, because they probably started out where it wasn't like that at all.
It's true. Yeah, it wasn't like that 15 years ago. I mean, it was headed that way, but yeah, it's all brackets. It's all done by HR. They can always say, well, I can't give you that because it's the policy. Oh, I don't have the authority. I know your worth, but I don't have the authority to actually pay you that. It's all
Right.
carefully designed to make sure that, that they stay in their labor budget. I remember used to be you'd get on an airplane, in the back of the airplane, the seat in front of you, there's the magazine, and there would be these flyers for the Karras negotiation course, Karrass. Um, and I took that thing, and it just teaches you how to negotiate. And I was like, this is disgusting. This is disgusting. And now that I've taken now that I have, hell, it's been 20 years. I took some classes on that kind of stuff and studied it. And, I see it all over the place, and it's just, it's manipulative and gross. I interviewed a lot of people to hire a lot of people. And so these potential hires would come in and do their interview, and you could tell some of them had kind of studied up and practiced, and others hadn't, and whatever. But there is such a huge disadvantage, because even if a guy is looking for jobs and gets a lot of practice doing interviews and is very experienced, I participated in 100 times more interviews than that guy.
Right.
Like I was, and it was my money and my office and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was my, so the battle was on my ground in almost every respect. And I had so much more experience with it. And I'm not being pompous. I mean, if I hired one position, I would interview 3 to 30 people for it, so I got a lot of reps in over the years. And yeah, I always kind of felt sorry for them. So anyway, the upshot of all that is, when you're going in to a big business for employment, you're in a defensive position. You don't have the advantages with you.
Right.
But it's okay. I mean, you don't have to take the job. If they're going to offer you 62 and that's not enough, walk out. You have a monopoly on your talents and services, and just don't ever forget that.
Right. Yeah, I think if they give me the job after college, I think I'll do the 62, and then I have a part-time job where I do technical writing for a drafting manual for a company I used to work for, making about the same wages. The nice thing there is I can just work, a little bit every day whenever I want, and on the weekends, and I don't have to answer to anybody as well. I think another thing that I thought about, I'm not sure how it was when you were hiring, but I applied for probably 12 positions for this internship, and I did not get a single response until the 12th position that I applied for. And the reason is that was the only position that I used a cover letter on. And that to me was very surprising, but then again, not surprising, because it's just the whole system is so feminine and bullshit. But it's like, I don't know, was cover letters a thing when you were hiring? I don't see the point in them, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, people would send them, and I'll tell you this. I mean, people send these resumes, and they don't mean anything. So they don't mean anything. They're, whenever I looked at a resume, I would just kind of take in the beats. Like, what was this guy's last job? How long is he there? That's pretty much it. Try to figure out, well, how old is this person? How long was he in that last job? What are the kinds of businesses that this person has worked in? What industry has this person been in? And and then when I'd look at that resume, I'm trying to figure out, well, what is this guy used to making? Just stuff like that. But I never read the details, because I knew they were probably 80% of them were just fabrications. I've also read the books about, how to write a resume, and, and I had a friend who helped people do that. And I know that those things are just BS, but every now and then you get a letter. And I'm not going to say a cover letter, just a letter.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is The Good, And this is what I have been doing. This is the kind of work that I want to pursue. And then often they'd have an offer in there, like, let me come in and work for 2 weeks for free. Or something like that. Maybe not that generous, but they'd often have an offer like that in there, something unusual. And you look at that, or I would, but
Right.
I wasn't a great big company. I don't know. We'd have 20, 30 people on payroll at any given time, something like that. And I was the owner, and I wasn't an HR mommy. So, that's how I responded to it. I was interested in that. Okay, this is a person who, wants to get things done. They're not just like checking all the boxes and following the quote unquote rules. This is a person who's, trying stuff out. Charity.
Right.
Love you.
And
Bye. The wife's leaving.
Gotcha. I think what was interesting though is that I hated the letter, or the cover letter as the school called it, because we had to take a class on how to even write resumes. We had to pay them to do that as well. And I actually found more freedom in it. Like, so what I ended up doing for my cover letter, the only one I ever wrote, and it worked right away, was I knew I was sending it to the lead engineer and not to an HR pantsuit mommy. And I wrote an essay. On why my work experience, I was a drafter since I was 16. And there are buildings in Metro DC covered with window wall that I drew from nothing. And people are living in them now, which is pretty cool. And not a lot of young college kids can say that. So I essentially wrote an essay on why, this work experience, you don't learn the things you learn at work in college. You don't learn sitting down with, how do you learn sitting down with an architect as a 18-year-old? I mean, you just start talking to people. You just start learning. And I found a lot of freedom in it, that it could actually be humanizing, unlike the resume.
Yeah. And I think that, that letter can do that. And then I think that almost anybody can put together some sort of a portfolio, some sort of proof of their work, some sort of representation of their character and what they can do and what they have done. Even somebody that's coming right out of college. Now, maybe some of them can't because they haven't done anything yet. Well, we don't care about those people. But if you have done some things, if a guy graduated with a mechanical engineering degree and I was hiring engineering 1 position, whatever, and some guy said, "Hey, here's my resume, but also here's this thing I had printed at Kinko's. It's full color. I had it bound. It's 12 pages, and here's my paper route when I was 12. Here are the yards I mowed when I was 17.
Right.
Here's the money I saved from the first year mowing yards. I would be really interested in getting to know this kid. So, get crazy. Get crazy when you do that. I've also, I've heard a bunch of people, you drive around and you see all these help wanted signs. And these businesses, not people, businesses aren't people, keep claiming, oh, it's $14 an hour to start, it's $12.50 to start. And these are like fast food, And then I know people that have went and applied for these jobs, and they're hiring them on at $7.50, at $8, at $9. So the advertised offers are lies.
Hook, line, and sinker.
And yeah, and then then there's some blog posts out there in the last several weeks where people. There was one. Was a guy in Florida who applied for 2 jobs every day in September and got 2 callbacks. So he applied for 60 jobs and got 2 callbacks. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. So you're just going to have to be. You're going to have to be, doing it the regular way is going to get you 2 callbacks out of 60, apparently, in today's environment.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have much to lose by getting getting really inventive, really non-conventional, and really aggressive with the way you present yourself. Never lie,
Right.
but get get inventive. Think about that portfolio thing I was talking about.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
A personal website. You should own your name.com, .net, .biz, something, and put that portfolio on there. Because you get the resume or the cover letter, and I don't know, you get 100 of those, and you set aside 20 of them. The first thing you're going to do is Google all those people, do a Google search on all those people,
Mm-hmm.
and if you've got that, I don't know, out of the 20 that they keep, there's probably 2 or 3 of them that have that. So
Right.
do get crazy, but then all of this stuff that we're talking about will serve you to move out into self-employment later, and you're
Right.
going to
Which
have
is
to get
the end goal.
self-employed, dude.
Yeah.
You have to.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's well, I mean, like, look, these people that have families and they have no other thing going on, they get a vax mandate told to them, or they'll lose their job. I mean, you don't want to be put in that situation where you feel trapped.
Yeah, one of our Telegram friends, he got perp walked out of his previous job because he wouldn't get the vax by the drop dead date. He had a new job for more pay within 10 days. And he just got notice that he had to get, even though he's a remote worker, he's got to get the shot.
Yeah, it's coming.
So it's coming. It's coming. So you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do. But meanwhile, take their damn money.
Yeah,
and make plans. How's the dating life, man?
I guess this would be probably the more entertaining part for some of the boys. Okay, so I don't know. I don't want to get too involved in telling backstory, and then I put everybody to sleep. But so I was with this girl for about 1.5 years. Second relationship. The other one was from high school, and that lasted about 3 years. And then once she went to college, she turned into a party freak, and that didn't work for me. And this girl, I think the beginning went very well. We were very aligned politically, which some could say morally, but then I come to find there's things that we're not agreed on morally. But and plus my values were changing. Like I said, so my ex's father introduced me to your program. And someone doesn't read some of the classic Greeks and even just listen to your program, and not have a reconsideration of their value hierarchy. So I think that also like kind of played a part into it as well. But not that you were the reason for my breakup, but I think it was the reason for my realization of why things
I like
were.
it.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell everybody I cock blocked the good.
Well, you can call me Caleb. You can call me Caleb.
Oh,
but
okay. I like the good. So your what do they call it? Your avatar is Clint Eastwood from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah,
that's right.
On
I thought it
Telegram.
was funny. But no. So some of the key issues was her college. So she goes to college. So that's the first key issue. She's double majoring in psych and in I think business management. She's majoring in psych. That's another key issue. Mm-hmm. She's a very sweet girl, and her family took me in as if they were my own family because I don't have a very close relationship with mine. And she has some issues that are just really like a problem for me. She takes I think like OCD meds, maybe anxiety meds. She's on birth control. And of course, since she's a psych major, she will justify all of that. And then also she says to me, well, if our kids have it, they're going to be put on medication.
Right.
Well, how do you argue with somebody like that? You're not going to win.
No, you just, yeah.
I mean, and she said that like a year into the relationship.
If you're married, you might win.
Yeah, but
that argument. But if you're not, you can't. You're right.
Like I would make the argument to her. I'm like, well, how do you know? Like people live thousands of years without these effing medications, and now everybody's on it. Like you don't think that maybe a red flag, but there's no reason. in arguments with women like that, you're really best just move on and maybe
Yeah.
figure that out pretty early, unlike I did. I thought, oh, she's politically aligned with me, very close.
No, well,
Well,
how
she
old are
doesn't
you?
fucking care. I'm 21.
You still found out early. Like you spent some time on her, but it's not like you're 38. You
Yeah,
know,
no, I
so
agree.
so
That,
so
yeah.
good for you. You know.
Um, yeah, and she was politically aligned with me, but it's like, okay, well, she's politically aligned with what her father is because her father did what I would say a good job. Now, obviously there are things like, oh, he sent his daughter to college, but
Yeah.
a lot of people just don't get it.
Yeah, those boomer dads don't get it. You know, I've got a dear friend who's a boomer who has sent both of his kids to school, and I think that we would all call him an ally. You know,
Right.
I think if you and me and you and him and ate a hamburger, you'd say, yeah, man, that guy, he's an ally. And then, uh, but he sent his kids to school. He doesn't get it, and I told him, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and he called me the other day and he's like, I think I'm losing the boy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll get into some of the college stuff here in a second. I see somebody said if she's on OCD and anxiety meds, I would question how good of a job her dad did. Typically I would, but she had a medical condition when she was young, like probably in her like 8 or 9, where it's something with her throat. Like her dad had the same thing, where she can't really swallow food, and they didn't have medication for it at the time, and she had to be put on a feeding tube at that age all the time, and she could only eat like a certain caliber of food through that feeding tube, and she would fight it. So in some ways I can see how that's uh, a traumatic thing, but maybe it is genetic. But regardless, I think a lot of it's bullshit, and I think the trauma is not bullshit, but I think the remedy is. I don't agree with all the meds.
Yeah.
I think like everybody's depressed. Well, it's like, well, maybe that's like the result of a very depressing situation for the state of
Oh,
men.
oh,
Like,
it's
but they say, oh, it's
the
all
last 2 years have been so difficult for everyone, so difficult. I'm not giving her an excuse, but
no,
it's just been everything's been so difficult for everybody. Um,
yeah,
Jason in the chat says, he questions how good of a job her dad did, and that's natural to do that. But man, I tell you
hmm
what, everything is so corrupt, and it happened. It it happened both slow and fast. Like they say. Um, it's clearly taken 100 years or so for everything to get as it's taken since Martin Luther for everything to get as bad as it has gotten, but it was by dribs and drabs, and in the last 5 years it's just been an avalanche. And so a normal guy trying to do a good job, trying to do what his parents and his grandparents showed him, um, is probably gonna lose. So this guy, her dad, could do his very, very best, and unless he's just highly disagreeable like me, he's not going to see that what everybody told him doesn't work anymore.
hmm
It's just too much to ask for a normal person in, I don't know, 2013 to realize that they have to quit their job, move their kids out in the boonies, cut the internet off, and so on.
right,
Like and that's what it would take. So he can do a wonderful job. And this isn't just about the girl that you're not dating anymore, but any
hmm
girl that you're coming up on to potentially date. These, the parents
right,
can do their very best, but at some point, the girl is out in the world
right,
and defenseless. And one of the virtues of a young woman is a sort of naivety and a sort of openness. That's one of the good things about them. And
right.
then, but they're thrown out with that feminine virtue into the world, and they get turned. They get turned out. Um, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, yeah, and I can't sit here and blame her father just because well, he's actually Gen X, but he had I guess early boomer, whatever would be before boomer parents who were fresh off the boat from Ireland.
Oh,
And well, actually, only his father went. So his father and mother split, and then his
oh boy.
father actually snatched him up and stole him and took him to Ireland because his mother was like a witch. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and he is getting it now. I think it's just too late. Like,
Yeah.
so during COVID, well, I guess I'll address one of the things somebody said. Bad genes run. Unfortunately, true. I
Yeah.
care about the person a lot, but it is true. When they have a genetic condition like that, your kids are going
Yeah.
to have that. Well, what if you can't get the medical supplies you need because you're not vaccinated? But
Right.
so some of the things, like, I think he realizes during COVID, she did college at home for like 2 semesters, which is probably
Mm.
why the relationship lasted as long as it did, because her college was 2.5 hours away. And essentially, she was president of a sorority. Now, before anybody says anything, it was not a party sorority. It was more like a philanthropy type thing. They were kind of like not the party. There was three sororities. There was the nerds,
Mm.
the partiers, and then like the average like 5 women. Some were partiers in there, but most were just like,
Yeah.
doing events.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
Well, yeah, they by my standards, it was completely degenerate. But I'll get into one situation that her father was about to freak out and had to go out of the room because he was going to really blow up. She's doing a training because she was now president. She's doing an online training for diversity and inclusion, and it's pretty much just like anti-white
Mm.
bullshit.
Hmm.
And I think he's realizing, like, oh my God, I just sent my daughter to this hellhole.
Hmm.
Um, and now she's a senior, and yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel for the guy, but not my problem anymore. Um,
Well,
another thing,
you can consider the guy a friend.
yeah, I
You
do.
know.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
And another thing that you'll get a kick out of her roommates. So she had to live on campus her senior year, and her roommate, one identified as what they call non-binary, which is just mentally ill.
Mm.
Um, one was bi, and the other was a fat lesbian. That was about the average pool.
Yeah.
And then one was straight as of now. Maybe now that I'm out of the picture, the fat lesbian will start working her tricks. But um, that's the
Yeah.
pool. It's like that's average when they say like 20% of kids are identifying as some form of homosexual or bi. I didn't believe it, and now I do. I think that's
Sure.
true that number of kids are doing that. Um, and yeah, I don't know. It really didn't work out. I think I told somebody the problem between her and I was moving towards being a Luddite. Now, not actually a Luddite, but that's the direction I was heading, like questioning technology's value and whether or not it's right. And she's like too modern. Um, and I think she wanted too much control. She wanted to play too much of the men's role, and I told her that. And of course, that didn't go over very well. Well, it was towards the end, so it didn't matter anyway. But I wanted to get a chicken coop. Well, I'm still designing it and building it. She she goes, well, you didn't consult me enough and take my considerations in. Now, keep in mind, we don't live together. We're not married either. And even if we were, I don't think it particularly mattered too much. But I
This
said,
is a common theme in the chat on Telegram. You realize that this is just what they do, right?
I'm realizing that now. I didn't realize that until now.
Yeah. So you just failed the shit test. The proper answer to that is I didn't ask you.
That was my answer.
And when you're 30 weeks pregnant with my kid, maybe I'll ask. But
Yeah.
I'll probably just let you know at that point.
Yeah, no, that's what I did. I said like, no, I just told you I was doing it. Like, that's what I
Right.
told you. Like, that was my consultation, if you would even call it that. It's like, no, I just told you I was doing this, and I also gave you a reason why. Um, just because. I was like, food prices are rising, and it's also something I find interesting, and I think it'd be a good skill to learn, and I think it'd be a good skill for my kids to learn one day. And hey, not free eggs, but homegrown eggs, and eventually
Sure.
homegrown meat. And she's like, yeah, oh, you'll get a kick out of this. so fucking embarrassing. Her response was, yes, but that all makes sense. But, how will I travel with chickens? I don't want that responsibility. I want to be able to travel.
All right.
Bruh.
Yeah, you're just going to have to do the shit out of what you do, just unapologetically. And, you know, I don't want this to sound like boomer advice. You know, the boomer advice is let's just be yourself and, the right one will come along. I'm not saying that. But you just have to. I'm not saying that. It's going to sound like it, but it's not. You just have to do whatever you think is right, unapologetically. And chances are that doing whatever you want to do unapologetically at this point in the world is like wearing a motorcycle jacket and being a gang and being the bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
Like at some point, some chick comes around, you're making $62K a year, you've got 30 chickens and a garden, and she's like, let's go out and eat. And you're like, fuck that food's gross. I don't want it to make me get titties because it's full of estrogen. We're going to eat this food I made.
Right.
Like,
the only going out to eat will be maybe we eat outside.
right. And that's going to be both a powerful magnet and a powerful filter. But right now, it's kind of like the job market. You don't have a lot of distinguishing characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. You're 21. You haven't had enough time to put those all together. But just do the heck out of it. And if one of them doesn't like it, just stand up and show her the door.
Right.
When I was 19, I had a little business that I had started, and it was keeping me from starving to get death, and I was doing okay. I mean, it was just starting to move a little bit. And I took this girl who was in nursing school to dinner.
Mm.
And she said, well, what are you studying? And I said, well, because I was pretty much done with college at that point. I was still going to college. It didn't cost very much in those days. So you could kind of do it, and it didn't matter that much. And I said, well, but I've got this business I've started. And we had ordered hors d'oeuvres, or an appetizer. And
Okay.
I said, well, I've got this business, and it's going all right, and I've got a couple of employees, and I was proud of that business. And she said, what are you going to do about benefits?
Nursing student.
What are you going to do about benefits? I called for the check. I had them put the appetizer in a fucking styrofoam box, and I took her home.
What a dumb bitch. That's so funny.
Well, she had no idea. She was outraged. And I said, hey, listen, I'm just not interested. You don't get it. And the fact that you even had that as a question means that I don't want to pursue this anymore. I don't hate you, but this is a kindness, I promise. And I took her home, and she got to keep the stuffed mushrooms. Whatever, man. So, I mean,
let's see.
I think that's the way you're going to have to be.
Yeah, I agree.
I had an organic chemistry lab partner. She was Miss OU, University of Oklahoma at the time. Piping hot, like a 9.5, piping hot, and fairly smart. She was in organic chemistry, fine, kind of, and she was nice. And I would come in to chemistry lab late and dirty because I had a construction business. And I carried around a bag phone. Nobody had phones then, and I was weird. And she was kind of dismissive of me and stuff. And then one day we had to go get some supplies or something. I don't know. And I said, well, let's go. And she got in my truck. And then I drove down the road, and we were actually doing a job right off of the campus. And I saw that some supplies that I thought were going to be there weren't there yet. So I just said, hang on a minute. And I whipped into the driveway, and I went over there, and the guys came around, and they all talked to me. And there was a sign stuck in the yard that had my name on it. And I got back in the truck. I said, hey, sorry about that. Thanks for waiting. I needed to take care of that, and drove off. Dude, basement flooded. She got all gooey-eyed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
Um,
just you're gonna have to just get some shit going, and then you can just ignore all these dunces.
yeah, I think that's honestly the same conclusion I came to the other
I
day
think I
before
was
we had this
married, by the
talk.
way. I think I was married, by the way, when I had Miss OU in there. I think, which also probably helps. So you might just wear a wedding ring too, because they're all
Mm,
treacherous.
yeah, they are. They're very
Yeah,
beguiling as well. They want that like challenge in a way of
yeah,
because it's all about like social status a lot of the time for them. Um, but yeah,
treacherous.
yeah, I think the conclusion I came to was like just focus on being a good man and good women will, you know, it'll just happen. Like it'll take some like what you said I think a while ago is yeah, it'll take some trial and error. There'll be some tears. There'll be some hardships. You'll get crushed maybe. Uh, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's just the process. And eventually you just got to find the good one. Um, and then also, I
Dude.
think somebody in chat said, uh, try to pretend like you like traveling so that girls like you more. And I think Jason McGinty had the correct idea there of don't hide it. If they would break up with you over that, it's a good thing they broke up with you. Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, Sandcrab says saying you love traveling to a woman gives you a +1. We don't
Who fucking
care. We
cares?
don't care. We're not here. We're not here to earn the approval from randos.
Yeah.
You know. You know. The whole pickup artist movement, the whole game movement that, from like 20 years ago, 22 years ago, that's kind of, it's still going on, was really focused on, finding the magic formula, right? To get all the +1s with a woman so that you could get her back to your place that evening,
Right. Yep.
And, there's a lot to learn from those guys because they are like practical psychologists or sociologists. They watch in the field, they make observations, they do tests, and they can come back and say, here are our conclusions, and they work, and that's fine. So I think it's important to kind of learn some lessons from that, but we have to have some integrity. We're not, the mystery method guys, the game guys, the Heartiste. I admire all of them a lot, but they're degenerate. Roosh
Mm-hmm.
has now said, this is degenerate. I should never have done it. But they have insights, but we need to take those insights and use them because we need every single tool we can get to find a good woman and to keep them. And which is not to just spin plates and get the notch count up, but to find good ones, be attractive to them, like some basic stuff from like the mystery method way back. Do you know anything about this stuff, Caleb?
The mystery I know about Heartiste. I was reading through that. You linked it,
Yeah,
but mystery method never heard of it.
yeah, mysteries way before Royce and Heartiste. Mystery would, I read the mystery method a long time ago, and he says have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
Have something to say. He's like, if you go to a party and somebody says, how are you doing? Don't just say fine and you need to have something to say. He
Right.
said, for example, you want to say something that shows that you have a positive attitude and that you have worth. So you go to a dinner, you go to a Christmas party, and somebody says, oh, how are you? And you say, man, I'm great. I'm here celebrating the biggest year I've ever had. I just graduated from engineering school. I got this job, and I just built this chicken coop. I'm worn out because I worked on that all day, but I'm glad to be here. How are you?
Right.
There are just plain common insights, and maybe there's something dishonest about spinning your introductory story to the question, how are you today? To show that you have some status and that you do things. Maybe there's something dishonest about that, but there's a lesson there. Like guys, particularly guys that are up in their head, particularly guys in engineering school, are going to hate small talk, and they're going to be no good at it at all. But the pickup guys give us all kinds of insights into why the way guys normally want to do personal interactions just doesn't really work for women.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So there's a lot to be learned there for the person who doesn't want to be a degenerate. It's kind of tough, though. It's tough to read Rollo. It's tough to read Royce. It's tough to read Mystery because it's all about their groin. But there are things in there we can learn. Like we read Socrates, even though there's weird gay stuff in there. There's some, not that Neil Gaiman is Socrates, but we can learn from things. Yeah.
Well, in the words of Max Comfy, whatever, man.
I mean, whatever.
that was what did it for him. That Socrates talk about the hypocrisy. Of you guys for reading that. Yeah, I agree.
It's so stupid.
Yeah,
so stupid.
It is. Like I think the Heartiste stuff, or however you pronounce it. I'm reading through, and a lot of it's like, they're just pump and dump, baby. It's like, well, I can, kind of ignore. I think it's good to be able to point out who is pump and dump and who's not, because you don't want to marry a pump and dump. But that being said, I will be doing very little pumping and dumping. I just have better things to do, in my opinion. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think it takes a lot of like effort in some ways that I just don't really care for if I'm not in it for marriage.
Sure.
But yeah,
that's why I asked for the check before we got the appetizer.
Yeah, because it's like whatever.
Right. Like what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I spend like an hour and a half excruciating, 90 minutes with this dunce in hopes that she puts her lips on parts of me. Like, I don't care. Come on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the more I learn, like the more I'm realizing the whole reason we're in this like position. I mean, we're living like a woman's world, like a feminine world. And it's because there's just men out there just constantly trying to seek the approval of these women.
Simping.
And it's just totally backwards. It's like totally backwards. And in a way, I wouldn't say I'm proud of the breakup, but in a way I am, because
you should be.
I like when she called and said like this just isn't working. So one of the things that really did it in for her, really big, she drove back to hand out Halloween candy. And she went out and bought a shit ton of candy. And she goes, "Oh my God, we need more. We need more." I said, "We don't need more. The bowl's full." And by the way, only 25 kids went out that night, so we didn't need more. But she's like, no, we need more. So I was like, all right, I'll run down. It's fine. Not a big deal. Well, the candy there is now like $16. I mean, it's so effing expensive. And I come back and I go, this took me 80 minutes to make. And she said, "Oh, you can't talk like that. You can't live your life thinking about that." And I said, "Why?" I said, it isn't the money like the store of your time that you're working. I mean, you just swipe a card, your parents pay for it. You don't see that. And I shouldn't have even gotten this argument with a woman, but she's like, "Oh, you just can't think of money that way." What the hell else is it? You know what I mean? Think of what I could have done in that time, doing something I actually enjoyed instead of being miserable behind a computer screen.
Yeah, but she doesn't think about that.
No, and
she just doesn't. Yeah. And you making those arguments just isn't compelling to her. So you just have to make sure you're virtuous so that your arguments aren't baloney.
Yeah, I think I shouldn't have even argued. I should have said, "Well,"
just say, "No, I'm not going to do that, hon. Yeah. We're going to stay here. We're going to have a good time. If we run out of candy, we'll turn the porch light off and shut the door."
Yep. Yeah.
And she'll be out, and she'll stomp her little foot in whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful there.
Mm-hmm.
If you got 8 pieces of candy and you guys are trying to, look at some kids, see the kids in their cute costumes and do the community thing. Okay, you need to get some candy.
Yep.
So you have to make sure there's actually enough candy. You can't just declare, "Fuck you, I'm not going."
Be disagreeable just to be disagreeable without
right. So So if you've got some sense, you got some virtue about you, you're being fair in your mind, and you know that. And she says, you need to go get some candy. Say, no, I'm going to stay here with you. We've got plenty of candy and whatever. It's getting late already. It's etc. And if she let her leave. Who cares? It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think what's tough for me in that situation there was the hardest part of that relationship was leaving her family, actually.
Yeah.
Because I was with her for so long, and I don't really talk to my father. Well, I've mentioned stories in here. My father had that I don't know if anybody remembers that chick that was running for the school board who lost, by the way. But she had like orange hair and face tattoos. And he had a sign in her yard. Well, it's like that right there is the reason my father and I don't talk, because when I was in sophomore year in college, I was at his house and I said something about trannies. And we got in this huge yelling match between each other.
Oh, my God.
And I just walked out. I mean, he's like, you're so hateful. Trump's a racist. He's like real normie, but he doesn't really know. Like, his wife kind of just rules the roost, and he just plays like fantasy sports, and works a lot. But
and apparently looks at tranny porn.
I guess so. I mean, I guess it's a problem to be not okay with that. But yeah. So I just leaving her family was the most difficult part, because her father was, compared to most people, very based. They were very good people, the mother and father. Had a lot of similar values, maybe not so much with the land, although I think they're kind of warming up to it, and I think that's kind of actually what they're pushing for. But yeah, that was actually the thing I was most sad about. But it is what it is. I mean, it's not my family.
You did good. You stuck to your guns there, and I don't know who initiated. It doesn't matter. Onward.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Quit compromising all the damn time.
I know.
If you're married, you got to make compromises, but not everything.
Yeah. I'm learning. Hey, give me some slack. My father didn't teach me.
You're doing all right. Oh, he did.
I got divorced parents. Give me some slack, right?
I know.
No, but it is. Yeah, he did teach me. He taught me a hell of a lot of what not to do.
Where's mom?
She's somewhere down the street. She's doing good, but I don't know. I guess backstory. Maybe people in the chat that are younger, like me, can relate, because I think a lot of people of Gen Z had like really broken families, and so my father cheated on her when I was about 3 or 4 with some bar wretch, and well, the bar wretch then went and cheated on him with his best friend, so it worked out well for him. But he abandoned his 2 sons and wife for that bar wretch, and I don't know. I think that just really. I don't think she ever really recovered from that, if you know what I mean. So she had like no self-worth. So she would pick really poor guys after that. And, she ended up marrying somebody from, he was an ex-con, real, brutish kind of guy, real dumb. And then she goes and gets married to him and then has a kid with him. She has a young boy with him. And 2 months in, I was probably about 9, that young boy had, I guess, some rare blood thinning disorder. And the dad drops a house phone on his nose. So typically your blood would clot. Well, his didn't clot. So there's a pool of blood, and he ended up passing away. But the appropriate response to that situation is then to go and have another kid with that man. So now she has a daughter with him. And, he's a deadbeat, barely works. And she went back to school for dental hygiene. And, she's doing a lot better, but
Yeah, these people all have terrible judgment, all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no self-worth. I mean, no self-worth.
No, listen. Everybody's like, everybody blames it on people's like self-concept. And they're like, oh, their self-esteem, this self-esteem. Like you can evaluate whether a guy has the hemophilia gene and has been
Mm.
in prison or not without
Oh yeah.
regard to whether you think you're awesome or not. Like,
Yeah. No, I agree.
you know, it's baloney, baloney,
Well,
baloney, baloney. You know,
it's just wanting your emotional
it,
needs met. It's the same thing with my great aunt and Jeef. Like she got a mail order slave from fucking Africa. She's in her 60s.
yeah, these people just have terrible judgment. Okay, it's not about their self-esteem. You know,
No.
I have a friend, a dear friend. He says, if you want self-esteem, you have to do esteemable things.
Yeah. Well, that's
You
true.
know, if you want, a sense of self-worth, you have to do worthy things, and they don't do it. And then, whatever.
Yeah.
You can think all kinds of poor things about yourself, but still make good, good judgments about other people. There's a
Yeah, that's true.
payoff. There's a payoff for her in being around all the chaos and the mess. Maybe she feels like she's like the eye of the storm, or she's helpful, or who knows? Who knows? I don't even care. But don't think for a minute that there's not a payoff. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
you know. Have
yeah.
you read your Plato yet? Have you
No,
Have you read
I'm on the Greek.
your Gorgias?
No, I'm on the Greek plays. I wanted to do them all in
Mm.
order, so I wanted to read Herodotus
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Thucydides before I get to Plato, but I'm trying to crank through them. And now that I have all
yeah.
this free time, all of a sudden, I'm making
Well,
a hell of a lot more progress.
when you get to Gorgias, you'll see Socrates say that everybody does what they do in the pursuit of the good. Like people will do
Mm,
all kinds of boneheaded, awful, terrible things, but it's because they have the wrong concept of the good.
right.
You know, uh, friend Carl, his example is always nobody smokes because it causes cancer. They smoke because they value the nicotine, they value the camaraderie on the smoke break. They need something. They're nervous. They need something to do with their hands. Right? They're pursuing it for what they perceive to be a good, and they do a calculus in their mind, and the goods outweigh the carcinogens, and that's what they do.
Right.
So and I believe that. I believe that. So I think this broad. I'm sorry, your mother.
That's
She's
okay.
getting a payoff. She's getting a payoff. Like something suits her here. And whatever. You don't even care. I
Hmm.
mean, love your
Yeah.
mom, call her, go over there for Christmas, do all that stuff. But
Yep.
that's her stuff. So your
Right.
job is to figure out what the good is and chase that. And if all these dumb broads that you're dating want you to go spend 80 minutes of wages on candy when you don't need it, just say no. Hey, no, hon, we don't need that anyway. We don't need that anyway. We run out of candy. We're going to shut the door, turn off the lights, and I'll light a candle. We're going to get on the couch over there, and I'll show you some ghost stories.
Yeah. No, I think that's true.
So
I mean, yeah. Um,
remember, when you see your mom do all this crazy stuff, it's not about her self-worth. She's getting a payoff. It's working for her.
yep. Yeah,
It's working for
I
her.
think that's true. I mean, I don't really I used to sympathize with her a lot, and I think now that I'm older, I kind of just get it a little more, and I just don't. Um, and I still love her, and even my father. You're supposed to honor your father. Whatever that means. I'm not quite sure yet. Um, but yeah, it's quite strange. Speaking of smoking, just ordered 2 pipes yesterday. First 2 pipes ever.
What'd you order?
I ordered so I went to that Missouri website. I forget who was the first guy that well, I guess you were the first guy that recommended it to others, but somebody in the chat recommended it to me. And I ordered the Gentleman, and then I
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
ordered the Chesapeake because I'm from the Chesapeake region. I thought that'd be fitting. And try something a
Yeah.
little different.
Is that the one with the wooden stem?
It is. I don't know how
Yeah,
to
yeah.
feel about it. But
I don't either. That's some hillbilly shit.
I know.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know if I'm qualified, but I guess I'll find out. Um,
yeah. Missouri Meerschaum, like pipe nerds often deuce on the corncob pipes. They're just so wrong. Like you drop your corncob pipe, who cares?
Right.
You don't have to season them. You just take them out, fill them, smoke them. Perfect, right out of the box every time. Um, they're great. I like a nice briar pipe and all, but I don't ever use them because I'm outside. I drop them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working. I'm doing things. I clench in my teeth, so I don't. I've got Peterson pipes and Savinelli pipes, and and I don't want to. I don't want to ruin the stem. Clenching while I'm working. Like, no. And so, the Missouri Meerschaum corncob pipes are they're just wonderful. Yeah. So, yeah, you'll
Yeah,
like it.
I'm looking forward to it. I used to, when I'd work on cars with my friends, I'd smoke cigars. The problem with cigars is what I found is like, I don't know if this is true. I don't really know much about the tobacco, but when I would smoke a cigar, I didn't want to leave it like half smoked somewhere.
Sure.
And then also they were kind of just expensive. Like, with a pipe, I guess you can kind of fill up however much you want, or I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know how it works, but I'll have to read that article that you sent me that you wrote. So I think tonight I'm going to go to a local store. Is that Lane 1Q? Is that pretty popular stuff? Do you think they'd
It,
have that in stock, or is that you have to order?
they should. I have heard, I have read that is the most popular pipe tobacco blend in the country. So
Okay.
they should. I think there's more of that in the country than anything else. They should have it. Cigars, I don't have a lot of experience with them, but I've never been able to smoke one cool enough that I didn't just taste ash
Mm-hmm.
and acrid smoke. And they're too much. I don't want to. I don't need a cigar's worth of tobacco. I don't.
Right.
That's too much. It's too big. They're too much. Um, So like you said, you can just you can half fill a pipe or fill it up or whatever. You can smoke it. You can let it go out and set it on the desk and go on about your business. Come back to it later. And you can smoke it really cool. You'll get good at it. And you can smoke very cool, and so you can actually taste the tobacco and not taste the ash. And it's cheap. A pound, an ounce of 1Q is going to be, I don't know, $2.50.
Mm.
And that'll last. If you smoke one pipe a day, that'll last you 2 weeks, or something like that. It's
Right.
cheap,
Yep.
cheap.
Yeah. Definitely cheaper
It's
than a cigar.
delicious. Yeah, and if you want
They're
to get
they're
crazy, you're going to pay $15 an ounce. So it's going to cost you $1 a day. Good luck on that with the cigar. So
right. Yeah, I agree. Um,
and,
yeah,
and
looking
there
forward to
are
I
and there are cigar blends too. And I don't have any experience with them or anything, but there are cigar blends that people put in their pipe that supposedly give them that same kind of an experience. I know that the way those things are rolled and manufactured, makes them smoke a certain way, and you can't replicate that with the pipe. But anyway, you can get those cigar blends too if somebody's into that.
I think I'd rather just go get the cigar if I really needed that so bad.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'll tell you what, never was more productive when working on cars than when I had a cigar in my mouth.
Oh,
Um,
listen, man. I
good
used to
lord.
when I was in college. I hate to even say that. I hate saying that phrase. But
Yeah.
taking the heavier coursework, the calculus, some of the nasty chemistry and stuff like that. Throw a dip in, well, or a little red man chewing tobacco, and
Hmm.
get on that calc too. Never smarter, never smarter.
Yeah.
That vitamin N is underrated. That why we know why we haven't been back to the moon. Two things: affirmative action and smoking ban. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting to me that the more, well, the older I get or the more I learn, whenever, the media says something, I'm immediately wondering why the opposite is true.
Yep.
And, they're so against smoking, but you can smoke pot,
Right.
Hell, you can smoke crack. And yeah, that really made me wonder. And I was doing some research, and they're like, "Oh, well, smoking nicotine increases testosterone." I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I
You get
know
a
when
bunch of
I
guys
smoked
with
it,
you get a bunch of engineers with flat tops and a bunch of Lucky Strikes in one room. Next thing you know, space program.
yeah, pretty much. Next thing you
Yeah.
know, we're not sitting around wondering when our woman's gonna fucking text us back, or whether or not she'll swipe on our Tinder. Although I don't do online dating, I don't believe in it, but a lot of guys do. I think it's like a mail order bride, but I don't want to do that.
If only it was as good as a mail order bride.
yeah. Call me old fashioned, but I believe in talking to people in person. But
Well, you
yeah,
should be really old fashioned, where you just like go to another country and just steal a woman, like really old fashioned,
like my great aunt.
like your great
Well,
great 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 yeah, like your great aunt.
well, she went
Oh
full
Lord have
circle.
mercy. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
funny. But we can.
I know it is funny. They took him on
Well,
an Amish ride. They took him to bingo. I'm like, I'm wondering what's going through this fucker's head. Like,
okay. Explain this to people. We're going to put this out as a podcast. Explain this to people who haven't heard this.
all right. This will be the last story, I guess. So my great aunt, I live with my grandparents. I live in the basement. I have a nice setup here. They pretty much let me do my own thing. It's very nice. And my grandfather's sister lives down in Tampa, and she's lonely. She's very lonely. She has a few kids. I don't know where her husband went, but he's been gone for a while. I think divorced. And in her loneliness, she just couldn't find any men in Tampa, Florida that wanted her goods, partly because she's crazy. So the only appropriate response is to meet an African online from West Africa who is about my age. So, old enough to be the grandparent of. And essentially, as if you were buying a slave, pay for him to come over and marry him, and he's essentially stuck with you because if he leaves, he will not be a citizen. And although I'm sure maybe soon he will be considered a citizen, I'm not sure what the timeline is on that, but then eventually he will move his family over as long as he just stays with this old wicked wretch for long enough, and he'll probably get her estate as well and move his whole family over. And then for her, she's getting dick. She's getting dick out of it. And yeah, it didn't go well for her because her kids now refuse to talk to her. No surprise. At least her kids have some sense. But my grandfather, in his wisdom of a moderate, decided to invite them up for a week. Luckily, my girlfriend didn't dump me until a week after they came, but my girlfriend's parents allowed me to stay at their house because they were in Illinois, where he is a law professor. And yeah, so they brought him up here. I moved all my shit out, anything I had of value, silver, books, computer equipment, moved it all over there, a couple trips. And apparently they took him to bingo. My grandparents like to go to bingo, very boomer. They took him to the Amish country. The Amish will do dinners out of their home.
Yeah.
It is a very good time. I love talking to those people. Those are my people.
Yep. We did the very same thing Friday, but I did not take Jeef.
Yeah. Well, they took Jeef, and not only that, but it was a new people because we used to do it with a woman named Rebecca, and I forget the husband's name, but they were marrying one of their daughters, so they were not doing one that month. So they went to a new home. They took Jeef. They took Jeef on a buggy ride over in the Amish country. They just took him to do all sorts of stuff like he was their grandchild. And yeah, I didn't participate in any of those shenanigans, but it's almost sounds like I'm making it up. It's so ridiculous. But that is what happened. He didn't kill my grandparents, so that's good news.
Oh God, what an indignity! Seriously, what an indignity.
I
Well, I'm
know.
sorry you have to deal with that.
That's okay.
I I have nothing to add. I mean, the whole thing's crazy, but people need to understand it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
People, yeah, and
Oh yeah, third
Yeah,
world, third world, coming here, coming to a place near you.
yep. And your aunt's going to kick the bucket, and then you know, then we'll have to deal with the Jeef and all of his kin that he brings over here, and it's going to be
Mhm.
great. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think the worst part of it all is my grandfather's response to it, because he's like, "Well, give him a fair shake, give him a fair shake." Well, some weeks go by. Well, he finally gets a job, right? He's sending over half his money back home. Well, that's no surprise to anybody that isn't retarded.
Right.
And but again, give him a fair shake, give him a
Oh,
fair
he's a
shake.
good family man. That's evidence he's a good family man. Caleb,
Yeah,
come on.
total moderate TM response. Give him a fair shake. Everybody's people. We shouldn't judge. He goes, they don't go to church, but he goes, doesn't the Bible say you shouldn't judge? And you just kind of fall on your face and you just don't even bother. But make light out of the situations. That's what you got to do. Otherwise, you'll drive yourself insane. So,
Yep. Everybody's getting a payoff. It's working for her on some level.
oh, I'm sure it's working on her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
but
Well,
okay.
man, finish that degree. Just take it like it's chemo. You're like, oh, I've got chemo 5 days a week for 9 months, and
Right.
just get through it, and then you know
Yep.
just
And pay it
save
off.
that
Get out and
money,
just
pay
pay
it
it
off,
off.
pay it off, pay it off. Don't take on any new expenses. Just pay it off.
I
And
agree.
hopefully the music keeps playing for long enough for you to get all your S together and um, get yourself a
Yeah.
good woman.
Well, probably won't, but hey, that's the
I,
beauty of
I,
life.
I've
Didn't
been
work
thinking
for
this
some of
stuff
our
was.
great.
I've
Sorry, go
been
ahead.
thinking that this stuff was going to implode since like '86, and
Well,
it hasn't yet. So we may have a long time. We may have a
yeah,
long time. But
but hey, even if we don't, whatever, you just make it work. That is what
well,
our great 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 grandparents did.
you're
They just
descended
made
from
it work.
people who boned during the Great Plague. So
Right. And the Great
you're
Depression.
descended from. Yep, you're descended from people who got it done. So just
Hell yeah.
do like them, get it done.
All
Great
right.
fun, man. You
Yeah,
poor
yeah, I think it was
bastard.
a good talk.
Yeah, great fun. Yeah,
Um,
keep us apprised of how it goes, and start putting that portfolio thing together, whatever your version of that looks like.
yeah. Well, hey, when I did that interview, I handed him a set of drawings for that building, and then I handed
There you
him
go.
an application to rent in that building, because guess what? That building's built. Um, but yeah, hopefully someday we can all get together when we're building Ian's house and have a smoke, and yeah, it'd be good fun.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I will say it one more time. There's that Telegram channel t.me/Scott Stream. Um, get in there and maybe share that if you will, folks.
Yeah, definitely.